Hello, my friends. This is Rabbi Aharon Dobinsky coming to you today from the holy city of Jerusalem, Israel, just before Shabbos and just one short week away from Rosh Hashanah. So I'm going to talk to you about something today that you need to know about. We talked last time about the fact that people get disconnected. They lose their connection from Hashem. Well, this week we had elections again in Israel, because the last time we had elections, we couldn't make a clear winner. So we had to do it all over again. And guess what happened this time? We couldn't get a clear winner. So you've got people walking around who are on the right saying the people on the left are horrible. People on the left saying the people on the right are horrible. There's some people in the middle. Everybody thinks they're horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. Is this the kind of life we're supposed to live? Is this the kind of life that we want to live? Is this how we're going to go into the next year? Hating a group of people who are our brothers because they don't agree with us? I'll be the first to admit, I wasn't happy with it either. I wasn't happy with it. And I made about myself a new declaration, a new thing for the new year, not to say a bad word anymore about another Jewish person. And this is going to be tough because there are some of them that let's just say we don't agree on hardly anything. And I think that there are some who I think actually tear down the religion, make it harder to keep things going. Just an opinion. But you're not going to hear me say that anymore. Do you know why? Because it is not a good thing to do. It's like, if you've ever been on the phone with somebody and you're talking, and you get into a little bit of a discussion about something that you don't agree with. And you say this and he says that. And they say this and you say that. And you say this and they say that. Okay, so everybody has their say. Now one of you, the other one, let's say the other one, says something and you go ballistic. And you say something that you'll probably regret later. And in the meantime, the phone goes dead. You go, what happened? The phone went dead. So you figure the phone went dead. You try to call him back. And you're getting a busy signal. You're calling it back. So you're getting a busy signal. You're trying again. Busy signal. Finally, it comes to you. This person is not taking your calls. He has disconnected you from him. He disconnected you because you did something that was so abhorrent to him that he couldn't stay on the phone anymore. I wouldn't call this a proper response. Maybe you wouldn't call this the proper response either, but it does happen. And it happens to us in other areas as well. Let me ask you a question. What is the best way to get a father to not like you? Think about it. There's probably a lot of ways. Any father that you can think of. What is the best way to get him to not like you? Matter of fact, to go beyond not liking you. To want to disconnect from you totally. The best way is say something bad about his children. Done. Say something bad about his children. You'll lose him completely. He'll disconnect you. He'll move in a different direction. Anything to get away from you because you picked on his children. And he can't stand that. Well, let me ask you, do you think, since again we have the same midot as HaKadosh Baruch Hu, only to a lesser degree, if we would do that as human beings, what do you think his reaction would be when you talk about his children in a bad way? When you call them names, when you say that they've done this, they've done that, they should do this, they should do that. You get in a position, it's one thing to have a discussion, say, I think this would be the best way to do things. I think this would be the best way to do things. But to look at somebody and go, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. You couldn't be more wrong. That's ridiculous. You're stupid. You're an idiot. You're a moron. How do I know people would do this? Because I've done it. I've done it. You've done it. Everybody you know at some point in their life has done it. So we're actually saying to one of Hashem's children, we're telling them they're not up to snuff. We're giving them problems. Now, don't get me wrong. Let's not go over the edge on this one. Do we want to bring them back to Hashem? Of course we do. And there's ways of doing it. Chabad is very good at it. They have this philosophy of taking somebody from where they are and helping them to move a little bit closer. But never, never do they say anything negative to you. Never do they tell you that you're doing something wrong. Never do they say that it's not the best thing to do. What will they say? They would say things like, you ask them a question. Say, couldn't I do this? And they will say to you something along the lines of, well, according to halacha, that wouldn't normally be the correct way of doing it. The halacha would say you would do this and do that. What have they said? They have said nothing. They've told you what halacha tells you. They tell you what the law says. That's the law is this. They didn't say you did anything wrong. They said the law would tell you this. The law would tell me this. The law would tell us this. And that's probably the best way of looking at things. Take it on the communal us. We do it on the high holidays, don't we? We do it every day. If you sit there every morning, you do takanu, nashamnu, bagadnu, kazalnu. That nu at the end of every word is we. We. We did this. We did that. We did the other thing. We. Why we? Because you or I, we may not think that we did this. And gosh, we certainly don't want to lie. And we don't want to say that we did something we didn't do. Because if we did that, we'd be lying to the creator of the universe. And we don't want to do that either, do we? So what do we say? We say, we did it. We did this. We did that. We sinned. We did this. We did that. We did this. Why? Because as sure as you know your name, you can bet there's somebody among us who has done that. And for this, we bring them into us. Remember, each Jew is responsible, one for the other. So if we're responsible one for the other, we have to take responsibility for the fact that we haven't gotten around to enough people yet to explain to them what is right so they know what to do. You notice I didn't say what is right and what is wrong. What is right? What is the right way to do this? Halacha is full of that. Go through Gemara. It's full of that. The rabbis sometimes will say something on a less than right basis, but for the most part, things are done on a, this is the proper way of doing this. It's brought down by this rabbi. This is the way of doing it. It's brought down by that rabbi. This is the way to do this. We all consent that this is the way we do that we feel about this, about blowing the shofar, about fasting on Yom Kippur, about all the things we do. There's a consensus. There's a consensus. There's not one rabbi. In Judaism, there's no pope. There's nobody who gets to say, yeah, this is how it is, and everybody has to do it because I said so. We don't do that. We have never done that. It is not part of the way we live our lives. What we do is by consensus. Even in the very early days, we had the Gentlemen of the Great Assembly, they had the Sanhedrin. We had groups of people so that everything was a consensus. To this day, if you look at some things in Gemara, you'll notice that sometimes this Rav does not agree with this Rav, which is right. Depends on who you hold with. Depends on who you think is the one who most closely represents your ideals. However, there's a caveat on that. If you say that Rabbi A is who you hold with, then Rabbi A is who you hold with. You can't go back on something you don't like that he said and say, well, Rabbi B says I can do this. Because you don't hold with Rabbi B. You hold with Rabbi A. He's the one you hold with. And if he's the one you hold with, he's the one you hold with on everything. So we say to each other, this is how it should be done. This is how we think it should be done. This is how I think it should be done. So we have an election. What do? In our election, we don't know who's going to take over in Israel. We're in a state of flux. We don't know who's going to be the next prime minister, who's going to control the government. We have brothers of ours, other Jews, who would like to have a very secular state. We have others who would like to have a very religious state. We have all shades in between. What do? Well, like we've always done. We take a consensus. And we take that consensus from those who are qualified to give the consensus, those who are learned in Torah, those who know what is right, what is wrong, what can be done. I know, I said what is wrong. And I don't mean it in the way of that I said it. I mean what is not according to halacha. So as we go in to the last week of Elul, the last week before Rosh Hashanah, let's think about this very carefully. Who have we said anything wrong to? Let's get their forgiveness. And let's promise them we won't do it again. And let's mean it. Let's get ourselves in a position where we understand that we as Jews are one single soul. We see our bodies are different. But as Jews, we are but one soul. That's why we do everything as we. So let's remember, just because we don't agree on a fact, just because we don't agree on a policy, doesn't have to mean that there has to be any animosity between us, any name-calling between us. We need to be who we are, the Jewish people, one soul. Go into the year with that thought. I promise you a good year ahead. So, I will probably do one or more of these before Rosh Hashanah, but in case I don't, you have a great Shabbos, a great new year. May you go from strength to strength to strength. Hatzlacha, v'bracha, success and blessings. And may you have this in all of your family, all of your friends, all those that you are close to. If you do that, then we'll all have a very great new year. Be well, my friends. God bless. All the best.